The Everleaf Forest pulsed with a rhythmic, soft light. Flowers hummed in the breeze, vibrating against the stalks like tiny tuning forks. Every creature here moved with the grace of the woods, except for Elli. He stood near the edge of the clearing, watching the canopy glow. A group of monkeys dropped from the branches, circling him. They pointed, their sharp barks echoing through the silence of the glade. They mimicked the way he moved, shifting their weight to mock his gait. Elli did not look at them. He kept his eyes fixed on the distant, shimmering leaves above. The laughter grew, high-pitched and jagged, cutting through the forest's natural hum. He felt the vibration of their taunts against his skin, but he did not move to retaliate. Instead, he closed his eyes, steadying his breathing. In the quiet space behind his eyelids, the voice of his grandmother returned, clear and unwavering. "A kind heart is the greatest power of all." He repeated the words to himself, letting them anchor his focus. The monkeys eventually tired of their game and scrambled back into the heights. Elli remained alone in the clearing, the forest light dimming as he continued to watch the stars, waiting for the night to fully settle over the trees. The change happened at dawn. The heart tree, which usually radiated a golden warmth, turned brittle and gray. Its leaves curled into black husks and fell, carpeting the ground in dead weight. The forest's hum ceased entirely. The wise owl landed on a low, withered branch, his eyes scanning the terrified crowd. "The life force is failing," he announced, his voice thin and dry. "Only the crystal flower from the peaks of Rainbow Mountain can restore it." He looked at the powerful buffalo, who stamped their hooves and retreated into the shadows. He looked at the agile monkeys, who climbed higher, burying themselves in the dying foliage. No one moved. The silence grew heavy, suffocating the clearing. Elli shifted his weight. He took a step forward, his foot crunching on a fallen, blackened leaf. A ripple of sharp, incredulous laughter broke out from the branches above. The monkeys mocked him, pointing and chattering with disbelief. Elli ignored the noise, focusing on the distant, jagged silhouette of the mountain. He walked past the rows of trembling animals, his pace steady and deliberate. He stopped before the wise owl, looked up, and nodded once. The laughter intensified, a chorus of doubt ringing through the stagnant air, but Elli did not turn back. The path led to a rushing river where the bridge had vanished, leaving only jagged stumps. A family of beavers scrambled over the debris, their movements frantic and uncoordinated. They shoved at a heavy log, but it remained lodged in the mud, immovable. Elli reached the bank and saw their struggle. He did not hesitate. He waded into the cold water, braced his feet against the silt, and wrapped his trunk around the timber. He pulled. His muscles tightened, burning with the strain as he dragged the log onto the bank. Hour after hour, he hauled more wood, his breathing labored and ragged. Each time he felt his strength waning, he thought of the wilting heart tree and pushed harder. By late afternoon, the logs were stacked and lashed into a solid crossing. The beavers stopped their frantic pacing, looking at the sturdy structure with wide eyes. One of them approached, holding a small, shimmering object in its mouth. It placed a blue crystal feather into Elli's palm. The feather pulsed with a soft, steady light. As Elli turned toward the mountain, the feather flared brighter, vibrating against his skin as if warning him of the miles ahead. He tucked it away, wiped the mud from his brow, and stepped onto the new path. The path narrowed into the Cave of Echoes, where the air was thick with the scent of damp earth and ancient stone. As Elli navigated the gloom, the blue crystal feather tucked in his pack flared, casting long, frantic shadows against the cavern walls. He rounded a sharp bend and halted. A low, rhythmic whimpering echoed off the ceiling. Tucked into a crevice, a baby bear lay pinned beneath a massive, jagged boulder that had fallen from the ceiling. Elli moved forward, the ground slick under his feet. He wedged his trunk under the heavy stone, bracing his legs until his hooves dug deep into the cave floor. He pushed. The rock did not move. He grit his teeth, muscles coiled and strained again. His skin scraped against the rough surface of the boulder, stinging as pressure mounted. He ignored the pain, focusing every ounce of his weight into one final, desperate heave. With a grinding roar of shifting stone, the boulder rolled aside. The cub scrambled free, trembling. A moment later, The mother bear emerged from the deeper darkness. She did not roar. She stepped forward and pressed her forehead against Elli, leaving behind a golden leaf that shimmered in the dim light. She nudged the cub toward the exit, looking back at Elli once, acknowledging the debt before disappearing into the shadows. The trail steepened until the air grew thin and biting. At the edge of the final pass, a fox sat directly in his path, its gaze sharp and unblinking. It did not move as Elli approached. "What becomes bigger the more you share it?" the fox asked, its voice cutting through the wind. Elli stopped, his breath hitching as he searched for the words his grandmother once whispered. He looked at the fox and answered firmly, "Kindness." The fox bowed its head, stepped aside, and the path forward opened wide. Elli pressed on, his legs heavy, climbing until the landscape fell away beneath him. At the very summit, the ground shuddered. A colossal stone guardian, carved from the mountain itself, rose from the bedrock to block his way. It did not move, but its shadow stretched over him, cold and absolute. "Why do you seek this flower?" the guardian thundered, the sound vibrating through the very soles of Elli's feet. Elli stood his ground, ignoring the urge to retreat. He looked up at the towering form, steadying his hands, and replied, "To save my home." The silence stretched, heavy and profound. Slowly, the guardian shifted. The massive stone limbs groaned as it stepped aside, revealing the shimmering flower. It reached down, placing the light into Elli's trunk. The descent began with a sudden shift in the atmosphere. The warmth of the peak vanished, replaced by an air so frigid it stung the lungs. Elli tucked the flower deep against his chest, moving quickly down the jagged slope. Within minutes, the sky overhead turned an unnatural, bruised black. There was no transition, only a sudden, absolute absence of light. Then came the sound. A low, guttural howl erupted from the valley floor, rising to a scream as it tore through the canopy below. The trees began to whip violently, their branches lashing against each other like frantic skeletal hands. Elli leaned into the gale, his hooves sliding on the loose gravel of the path. He braced himself against a protruding rock, but the wind was relentless, shoving at him with physical weight. Shadows detached themselves from the base of the trees, swirling into jagged, shifting silhouettes that circled the perimeter of his vision. The forest was no longer a place of life. Every rustle of leaves now carried a sharp, metallic edge. He pushed forward, shielding the flower with his body. But the storm grew louder, drowning out even the sound of his own heavy, labored breathing. The path ahead disappeared beneath a veil of swirling, dark vapor. A shadow lunged, its edges sharp as flint. It swiped at the ground, tearing up a spray of dirt and stone that pelted Elli like hail. He took a hit to his shoulder, the impact forcing him to stagger. He tried to regain his balance, but the earth beneath his feet buckled and gave way, sliding into a narrow trench. He fell, his grip on the flower tightening as he scrambled to find purchase on the shifting slope. The spirit shrieked, a sound like grinding metal, closing the circle. Just as the largest shadow reared up to strike, a brilliant warmth erupted from his chest. The golden leaf, tucked away for protection, ignited. A blinding, steady pulse of light rippled outward, dissolving the darkness in a 10-foot radius. The spirits recoiled, hissing as the light scorched their formless bodies. Through the retreating haze, shapes solidified. The beavers crawled from the underbrush, the bears emerged from the thicket, and the fox stepped out from behind a fallen trunk. They did not speak. They moved in silence, closing ranks around Elli, their eyes fixed on the heart of the storm. The shadow spirits halted, sensing the collective resolve. The beavers drove their front claws deep into the packed earth, creating a low, immovable anchor. The bears stepped into the gaps, pressing their massive shoulders against the beavers, creating a wall of muscle and fur that defied the gale. The fox slipped into the final opening, ears flattened, tail tucked low as it braced against the surging wind. When the storm spirits surged forward again, the wall held. The wind roared, a physical weight that hammered against them, yet not one animal retreated. The bears grunted, leaning hard into the pressure, while the beavers held the ground steady under their feet. Elli stood at the center, his chest heaving, his trunk curled protectively around the flower. He felt the vibration of their collective effort through the ground. The storm howled, trying to rip the barrier apart, but the animals stood as one mass. Each time a gust threatened to break the line, the fox darted forward, snapping at the swirling vapor to drive it back. They were no longer separate creatures. They were a singular, living fortress. The relentless wind pushed, the ground groaned, but the shield remained unbroken, forcing the storm to lash out impotently against their united front. The final stretch opened. Elli sprinted, his hooves thudding against the dry, cracked earth. The heart tree loomed ahead, its bark gray and flaking, its branches brittle as glass. It was silent, devoid of the pulsing light that once defined the woods. Elli did not hesitate. He lunged forward, pressing the shimmering flower directly into the deepest fissure of the roots. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, a low vibration hummed through the soil, rattling the stones at his feet. A pulse of golden light erupted from the point of contact, blinding and pure. It surged upward, racing through the trunk and into the withered limbs. Where the light touched, gray wood turned deep, rich brown. Leaves unfurled in a frantic, verdant explosion of color. The pulse expanded, a shock wave of vitality that tore through the canopy, shattering the remaining shadow spirits into mist. The wind died instantly. Flowers bloomed in the wake of the light, their stems rising and swaying as the breeze returned, carrying the scent of damp earth and life. The rivers, choked with silt moments before, cleared as the water began to sparkle again. The forest breathed, alive and vibrant, as the golden glow settled into a steady, rhythmic hum. The silence in the clearing was heavy. The monkeys, who had once hooted and jeered from the high branches, now sat on the lower limbs with their heads tucked against their chests. They did not look at the other animals. They did not boast. They simply watched as the forest around them swayed with renewed vigor. The wise owl descended from the canopy, landing on a mossy stone directly in front of Elli. The bird looked at the gathered crowd, then back at the small, sturdy figure who had risked everything. The owl spoke, the voice carrying across the clearing, naming Elli, the youngest guardian of the Everleaf Forest. A cheer rose from the beavers, the bears, and the fox, a sound that shook the dew from the leaves. Elli stood still, his feet planted firmly in the soil he had worked so hard to save. He did not puff out his chest or trumpet for attention. He simply looked at the monkeys, then turned to the younger animals watching from the periphery. He had proven that size was not the measure of a protector. The forest was whole again, not because of strength alone, but because of the choice to stand firm when the way was dark. His journey had ended, but the lesson remained etched into the very roots of the trees.